Have you ever been in your backyard and just watched a squirrel chattering away and wondered what the heck it's even saying? We usually just write it off as, well, noise. But what if I told you it's actually a language? A really complex system of communication that's been hiding in plain sight this whole time. Today, we're going to decode one of nature's most overlooked conversations. And it's a conversation where every word can be the difference between life and death. So, let me introduce you to our subject, the American red squirrel. For this feisty little guy, life is basically one constant high-stakes battle. Their entire world, literally their survival through a brutal winter, all comes down to one single thing, that pile of pine cones they've worked so hard to collect.
You see, the thing is, unlike a lot of other animals, a red squirrel defends one single patch of land all year long. And this isn't about bragging rights or status, it's about survival, plain and simple. That stash of food is their only ticket through the winter. If they lose it, they're not going to make it. And that, as you can imagine, makes the competition for these territories unbelievably fierce.
Which brings us to a really fascinating puzzle, right? If every single one of your neighbors is a potential thief, and any stranger could try to take over your home, how do you keep from just fighting all day, every day? Constant brawling is exhausting, it's dangerous. There has to be a smarter way to handle things. Well, the answer is, they don't just fight. They negotiate, they advertise, they threaten. Simply put, they talk. And we know this thanks to an incredible study from 1990 by a researcher named Helene Lapierre. She spent over 1,000 hours just watching and listening to these squirrels, and because of her, we've basically cracked the code. So let's dive in and unpack what she found. Okay, so to crack this code, we've got to start with the basic vocabulary. Scientists figured out there are 5 main calls, but 2 of them are the absolute cornerstones of how they defend their turf. Let's start with the one you've probably heard a million times. First up, we've got the rattle. This is that classic squirrel sound. It's a super fast series of little notes, and what's really interesting is that they often do it when they're completely alone. You can think of it like an advertisement, a public announcement to the entire neighborhood. The original study actually described it as a churr, kind of like a rolled R sound. This is the squirrel's way of planting a flag in the ground and yelling, "This is my land, I am here," to anyone who can hear it. And they can hear it from over 130 meters away. Now compare that with the screech. This is a totally different sound, and it's used in a very different situation. It's a series of high-pitched squeals that kind of trail off, and it's almost never spontaneous. A screech means one very specific thing: I see you. It is a direct, personal response to an intruder. So, let's put them side by side to make it clear. The rattle is a billboard, I am here. This property is occupied. The screech, on the other hand, is a direct message. I see you on my property. Now, the rattle doesn't really tell you if an attack is coming, but the screech, that feels a lot more serious. So the big question for researchers was, is it just a bluff, or does this squirrel actually mean business? For a long time, a lot of biologists figured that animals wouldn't develop honest threat signals. The thinking was, if you always signaled an attack, it'd be too easy for others to just call your bluff. But what the data showed about the red squirrel's screech, well, it was a total game changer. And the numbers here are just stunningly clear. When a squirrel screeched at another one, it followed through with a chase or an attack 69% of the time. 69! But if it didn't screech, that number dropped all the way down to just 16%. This is no bluff. The screech is an honest-to-goodness, reliable signal that things are about to go down. And here's where it gets even cooler, because it shows just how powerful that threat is. The study found that an intruder would back off and run away 59% of the time after hearing a screech. And get this, even when the owner didn't actually chase them. The threat alone is so potent that it can end the conflict right then and there. That saves both of them a ton of energy and avoids a potentially nasty fight. But of course, there's always going to be someone who wants to push the boundaries, right? So what happens when an intruder decides to call that bluff? Well, the study gave us a front row seat with a fascinating squirrel they nicknamed GT, the pilferer. So GT's food supply ran out, and she got desperate. She started sneaking into her neighbors' territories and stealing their cones. At first, they'd screech, and she'd run. But she got bold. She learned to wait, to see if they'd actually back it up. She only took off if they physically charged at her. But her neighbors caught on. They started to recognize her, and they escalated big time.
chasing her up to 150 meters away, way outside their own territory, just to send a message. It shows the system is flexible. The threat is real, but if you test it, the consequences get even more severe. Okay, so we've got the general advertisement and the honest threat, but the squirrel's language is even richer than that. It's not the whole story, not by a long shot. So let's check out the rest of the tools in their vocal toolbox. Next up, we have the bark. This is a series of loud chips or chucks, and this one's a real head scratcher. Squirrels bark at predators, which makes sense, but they also bark when they fall out of a tree or when they're having trouble burying a mushroom. It's kind of like the Swiss Army knife of squirrel sounds. So what on earth does it mean? Well, the leading theory is that barks are a sign of motivational conflict. Basically, it's the sound a squirrel makes when it is genuinely torn about what to do next. Should I attack this guy or run away? Should I keep trying to impress this female? The bark might be its way of thinking out loud, trying to buy time and gather more information before it commits. And finally, there are two specialized calls for up-close and personal moments. The growl is a quiet, last-ditch defensive threat. It's what a squirrel does when it's cornered. It's saying, I have nowhere to run, so do not come any closer because I will fight. And then on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have the buzz. It's a soft, gentle sound used for peaceful contact, like a mother calling to her babies. So when you put all these pieces together, what you're looking at is not just a random collection of noises. It is a remarkably sophisticated system designed for one thing: managing conflict to stay alive. I mean, this table lays it out perfectly. You've got the rattle, the broad, I am here. The screech, the very direct, I will attack. The bark is the uncertain, what should I do? The growl is the final warning, don't come closer. And the buzz is the peaceful, I come in peace. Every single sound has a specific job to do. And most of the time, this system works beautifully. It prevents countless fights. But the study also managed to capture a rare and really tragic event that shows you exactly what's at stake when these rules get ignored and communication completely fails. It was a conflict between a male named Pen and a female named VRM. Pin wanted her territory, and he just flat out ignored her threats. But she refused to back down. For 2 solid weeks, they were locked in almost non-stop, vicious fighting. The stress on VRM was so intense that she likely killed her own newborn babies. And all of that noise, all that chaos, it was basically a dinner bell for a barred owl, which researchers believe hunted and killed both of them. Their failure to negotiate, to use their own language, cost them absolutely everything. And that, right there, is the ultimate point of all this. The chatter of a red squirrel isn't just chatter. It's a complex, high-stakes language. It's a finely tuned system for declaring ownership, negotiating boundaries, calculating risk, and making life-or-death choices, all without having to resort to dangerous, costly violence. And it just leaves you with this one last, incredible thought. If this level of complexity is happening every single day with an animal we see in our own backyards, what other conversations are out there? What other intricate negotiations and declarations are happening in the forests and the skies and the oceans, just waiting for us to finally learn how to listen?